Earth Day, a day to celebrate the Earth, which is important because we all live on the Earth. Last Earth Day, I chose not to talk about it because, well, I didn't feel like it. But this time, I'm actually going to give it some thought. Yep, indeed, all living organisms on this wonderful sphere we call a planet should care about Earth Day, which is why you are the worst possible choice for a side character. Tenerbot, why are you here?
I haven't been on in a long time.
Yeah, so? You have a plastic outside casing, so you are quite literally the opposite of Earth Day.
Not true. Earth Day is to promote the reusing of products. A thing quite boringly named recycling.
Are you made of recycled plastic?
Of course not. At least not in the traditional sense. I'm made from space debris.
Oh, that's interesting, because plastic in space is a pretty big problem. Although not as big a problem as plastic on Earth, but plastic from space, from like broken satellites and stuff, those like clump together and do bad things. So it's cool that you're made of that. And I'm pretty sure I read this somewhere once, but the pieces of plastic that don't clump together and just fly around in space move so fast that it's difficult to get like spacecraft up there, because then the plastic just punches a hole in the ship and then you're in pretty big trouble. I can only imagine how much trouble rocket scientists have making stuff that won't, kill the people who live inside of it, like on the ISS and stuff. So flying projectiles probably wouldn't help that much.
I don't know, it might be kind of fun.
Huh?
You know, give the astronauts something to do. Instead of sitting around sciencing, they could pilot the ship around and avoid all the flaming stuff. What fun.
Real life isn't like the arcade game Asteroids, Tenerbot. It's a bit harder to have fun when your life is on the line.
It should be. Rocket scientists would have a lot easier time drawing up plans if it were just the letter A.
And the annoying thing is, the more plastic in orbit, the harder it's going to be to get to like the moon and places. And it seems that scientists really want to go to the moon, since it's the closest stop. Multiple 100,000 miles away, but that's pretty close.
Why would these dummies want to go to the moon? That place sucks. Mars is way cooler. It has rovers, mountains, M&Ms, Martians and demons and stuff.
Real life is not like video games, Tenerbot. There are differences.
Real life to me is basically just a really lame video game. I see both through the same screen.
So you can choose whether or not to pay attention to reality?
Yeah, for example, this entire time I've been viewing you as a pencil sharpener.
Oh, that's, very flattering.
You make some pretty good points.
That joke wasn't even that good.
Says the office supply.
So are you. You're a computer.
Undeniably cooler than you. Spinny boy.
If you looked at me like a normal person, you'd see that I'm a squirrel.
Wow, cool. That's pretty nutty.
Forget that, we're done here. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. This is strange. I thought it was supposed to be spring. This doesn't seem to be too in character. Spring is what nature does when it decides to let all the plants live for a little while, before killing them again in a few months. But I guess this year it decided that 2 weeks was well enough. Let them eat flake. You'd think that because every snowflake is unique and they all have different patterns and shapes, that they wouldn't stick together very well. Like trying to combine Legos with rip-off Legos. Sometimes they just don't fit. Snowflakes don't seem to care about the construction of each other because they just are made of water, so they melt into each other. Perfect fit every time. Of course, melting snowflakes is better than melting plastic because you don't get any toxic fumes. Ooh, on the topic of dangerous things, that's actually going to be today's topic. Because today I learned of this new material that I've heard of before, but I didn't really know what it was. It's called fiberglass. And it sounds like a kind of glass, because it has glass in the name. And it is a kind of glass, but not the traditional solid glass, like a window or a museum cabinet. No, this isn't that kind of glass at all, because those kinds of glass are not dangerous until you break them. Lucky for you, this fiberglass actually comes pre-broken. Saves a lot of work. Never again will you go through the hassle of breaking glass before using it. Which you should never have to go through that hassle in the first place, because breaking glass makes it useless. Now it's just a danger to you and other glass connoisseurs in your area. People who work with glass, famous for coming in packs. What fiberglass is an insulation. An insulation is stuff you put between the walls to try to keep heat in. Fiberglass to the naked eye looks kind of nice. It's pink and fluffy. You just want to give it a hug. But don't do that. You will have a bad day. Very bad day. Because fiberglass, as I mentioned before, contains millions of microscopic pieces of broken glass. When I first heard about this, I thought it was an incredibly dumb idea. Why would you put glass, a dangerous thing, in your insulation that might, leak out of the walls or something, and into your house? That seems like a terrible idea. The reason? Well, apparently, it's because glass is a poor conductor of heat. Glass ladies and glass gentlemen, I'm going to have to stop you right there. As another pack animal, ants, will have to disagree. Magnifying glass lasers don't come from anywhere. Obviously, glass is not a poor conductor of heat. If you held a giant sheet of fiberglass right between the sun and a house, then that house would turn to Swiss cheese in a matter of hours. Learning of this destructive power, known as fiberglass, I had an idea almost immediately. Though it's probably not what you're thinking. This specific idea will be targeted at a small portion of my audience. To any ninjas or samurais watching this, pay attention. So you have your sword, right? Those long ones that are kind of like curved, and they go slash, slash, slash. And you have a sheath for them, a sheath. You put the sword in the sheath, take it out, and you go slash. And that's pretty fine all on its own. But here's my idea. You take the sheath, and you line the inside with fiberglass. So that way, when you pull out your katana, then when you slash someone, not only will they be hit with the sword itself, but it will also leave behind fiberglass. Thousands of tiny incisions into the skin that will make that person more vulnerable to, let's say, diseases and other unfortunate things you wouldn't want. For added benefit, you could also fill your sheath with salt water, so that way you slash, it makes the incisions, and then immediately puts salt in those incisions. That way you get a cute pink cozy, as well as the ability to maliciously harm your opponent. And the fiberglass won't be affecting you too much because you'll be wearing a face mask, as well as ninja armor and stuff. And actual installation installers also wear face masks, though those ones are usually ventilated and attached to like a ventilator thing. That way you can breathe clean and fight mean, all at the same time. As an added benefit, if you catch your opponent sleeping in the middle of the day, then maybe you could align the metal and glass in such a way that it sets them on fire. Though, this seems like a exceedingly rare scenario. This concludes my ninja segment, and I guess all the segment, because this is the end of the episode. And if it wasn't obvious already, this entire time I've just been joking about silliness and nonsense. Please don't slash each other with fiberglass katanas. Thank you. This has been Billy Ninja's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. A few weeks ago, something cool came to my attention, which is particularly lucky for me as I was not really having much luck coming up with topics on my own. I enjoy reading books that are just a bunch of different, facts and stuff. And one particular fact in one particular book caught my eye, and it was about a certain scientific project. And it sounded interesting, so I looked it up, and it just so happened that that certain scientific project had just been revived recently. What luck! Allow me to start this topic off by saying that I don't completely understand exactly the specifics. Finding out things that people don't know is actually what the project is about, particle physics, which I'm sure nobody watching knows what that is, as it seems not even particle physicists know what it is, and that's why they made this project. Alright, I've gone on without telling you what it is long enough. The project I'm talking about is called LHC. Do you have any idea what an LHC is? Yeah, that's what most people I've asked have responded with, which is a bit strange considering what the LHC actually is. You'd think this would get a lot more attention. That's because the LHC is a dark matter particle accelerator. Yeah, sure, whatever. You made that up. That's not a real thing. Oh, but it is. It might sound like something from Back to the Future, but it is a real thing. And I said dark matter particle accelerator, which implies that it accelerates dark matter particles, but that's actually not true. It actually just accelerates normal particles and then smacks them together to see if they create a dark matter. However, that works. Of course I don't know what it is. Do I look like a particle physicist? Of course not. However, the people at CERN are. What's probably going through your head right now is, Mr. Nut Joe, you've said some pretty ridiculous things, but what is a CERN? Well, here. CERN, or CERN, stands for European Council for Nuclear Research. Wait a minute, European Council for Nuclear Research? That doesn't spell CERN, that spells ECFNR. Are you sure these particle physicists are smart? Well, I guess they are in particles and stuff, but they certainly don't know how acronyms work. But that's all made up for by the fact that their other acronym, LHC, as previously mentioned, actually does make sense. Hopefully. As LHC stands for Large Hadron Collider. You know, for when you need to collide hadrons. Whatever those are. However, from context, I'm assuming that a hadron is a particle. Because, as mentioned before, the way this thing works is that it collides two particles really, really fast. The entire machine is 27 kilometers long, which I'm sure would be impressive if I knew what a kilometer was. Nearly 17 miles? Holy cow, that is a big thing. In fact, the Large Hadron Collider might just take the spot for my new favorite piece of heavy machinery. Sorry, bucket wheel excavator, but you've had your few weeks to shine. Plus, the LHC has a much better wheel than the bucket wheel excavator. The bucket wheel excavator's wheel is probably like a few feet, but 16 miles of pure wheel? Beautiful. However, this particular machine is wheel-y concerning people, as those people are not too keen on having a dark matter generator in existence. And sure, I respect your stance on that. That's why I double punned it. But don't worry, people. Calm down. The LHC is nowhere near where it would hurt anyone if it ever were to malfunction or, dare I say, explode or something. That would be terrible. Of course it's out in an open field miles away from civilization. Yeah, it's built right under a city. Alright, CERN scientists, we got two things to work out: location and acronym skills. Of course, I'm joking, and I'm actually very appreciative that these CERN people are willing to collide hadrons, because I definitely won't be doing that anytime soon, nor do I intend on doing it. Nor did I know what a hadron was before talking about this topic. And I still don't know what it is. So, as such, I won't be using it in sentences during normal conversations. Yes, sir. I'd like 2 scoops of chocolate, extra hadrons, please. This has been Billy Netjo's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Not too long ago, I talked about this guy called Homer, and he wrote a story a long time ago that features characters doing things that we people today look down on. In fact, most of the actions partaken in those stories are now illegal, or in the best case scenario, incredibly rude. For example, in Homer's story, the main character, Odysseus, does some things that would be considered back then daring and heroic. However, today it would be more deplorable. And the last time I covered this story, I made it sound like Odysseus had died in the end, from some divine intervention. But no, unfortunately, he survives, though he doesn't really deserve it, as that divine intervention is pretty much the only way he would have ever survived the story and all the monsters he encounters. In fact, in the actual story, his final challenge is a room full of unarmed men. Yes, how will he ever defeat a room full of unarmed people while he has like 12 spears? Well, of course, the answer is that he uses the goddess Athena for some extra power boost. You know that extra power boost when you need to cut down helpless people. Now, the people he does kill are admittedly kind of jerks, but they're just as much a jerk as Odysseus. One final quick note before the actual topic starts. While preparing for the battle against the suitors, Odysseus and his son remove all the weapons from the room, which is pretty smart. But then they leave behind like a dozen axes in the floor for some like competition that he's gonna show off just how strong he is because he can like shoot an arrow through a bunch of axes. Why choose axes? Or at least remove the axe part first before putting them in the room, you moron. You just went through all the trouble of hiding all the spears and swords, and then you put 12 axes down. What were you thinking? He may have been blessed by Athena, the goddess of wisdom, but I guess he missed the first part and was just blessed by the goddess of dumb. All this talk about spears and swords and stuff reminds me of the actual topic that I alluded to earlier, but now I'll share it. Shakespeare. What is Shakespeare? Is it the battle tactic that Odysseus used while fighting off the suitors? No, because you're not supposed to shake spears, you're supposed to stab with them. I don't think it takes an Athena blessing to know that, but Shakespeare actually was another famous writer guy. Works from this individual include Romeo and Juliet, the famous one, Hamlet, the one with the skull, and Macbeth, which I've only really ever heard of. I have no idea what it's about. Though if we're going off the previous entries, I'd say it involves a lot of romance, tragedy, and bloodshed. Romeo and Juliet, the most popular one, was not actually written by him, but rather it was just a retelling of an already popular story at the time. As such, the script opens with a person telling you exactly what's going to happen in the story, and spoiling the ending. Come on, Mr. William Shakespeare. It's bad enough I have to read your stupid play for school, but now there's nothing even to look forward to. I already know what's going to happen. Why are we not considering kids hundreds of years in the future reading your stories today? Why not think of that a little? However, one thing I can give William credit for is his sense of humor. I like it. It's funny. And I'm assuming it's one of the few new additions he added to the already existing Romeo and Juliet thing. However, his jokes would land a lot better if, I could understand what he was writing. As the entire story is written in Elizabethan English, called that way at the time because Queen Elizabeth was the ruler of England. However, nowadays, Queen Elizabeth II is the ruler of England. And the current version of English that she brings with, I guess, this new generation of highness is one of the few sequels that I can say is better than the original. All the characters in Romeo and Juliet just keep ranting on and on about the same thing. While today we could get the same message across with, I'd say, 20 less paragraphs, which gives me the sneaking suspicion that this is not actually at all what people back then talked like. Because if it was, then the works of William Shakespeare wouldn't be so good because they'd just be a bunch of people talking how they would normally. You write a story today about people who just talk normally and it's just another story, but I guess back then he had to create an entirely new language just to get people's attention. Now that I think about it, the entire story might actually be a joke, as there is a character who's named, get this, his name is Benvolio. Romeo and his cousin Benvolio. You've got to be kidding me, that's not a real name. There's no way this is a serious story, says Billy Nut Joe, of which this has been his rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hi. Tonight I'm standing in the middle of this field to witness this cool lunar eclipse. It's cool because this lunar eclipse is called a blood moon. If it was called anything else, it wouldn't be as cool. When the moon is nice and full like this, sometimes people say that they can see faces on the moon. And while no, there are no faces on the moon, there are phases of the moon. One of which is called whining gibbon. Must be hard to sleep through that one. Gibbons are famous for their loud hooting, which is caused by a big frog-like pouch under their throat. Which brings up the question of why even calling them a gibbon in the first place. Why not call them frog monkeys? Gibbons are more frog monkeys than squirrel monkeys are squirrels. So it only makes sense. And no, there are no faces on the moon. That's just your brain's pattern recognition stuff. Don't worry, Jelly. There's no actual blood involved in a blood moon. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Hey, Billy.
Alright, I've learned my lesson by now. I'm out of here. I'm not putting up with this. Blood moon or not, I don't want to be near you.
I wonder if this is what they call being ghosted. I'm a safety concern.
Remember a few days ago when it was snowing? Yeah, me neither. The good thing is that all this sun is heating up the concrete. So that gives me all the more reason to hurry up with this rant, because I don't want my feet to burn off. As of right now, the previous set of episodes have been uploaded to YouTube. And with those uploads comes auto-generated captions, which are completely unnecessary, as everyone can understand what I'm saying all of the time. No one's ever been confused by what I say. But I guess it's a nice thing that they do exist. Most notably, the final episode of the previous set, where I discussed the word lethargize. A beautiful word that you don't consider a word, but you've been proven wrong. As the auto-generated captions, which, keep in mind, is a robot, which cannot spell out made-up words, managed to correctly spell lethargize. Well, it really only managed to spell it right one or two times. Other times it just got a completely different word, or spelled it in a way that no person would spell it. But this certifies lethargize as a legitimate word, which I'm glad was done for me, as I'm not really willing to go through the paperwork. But you know what I am willing to do on this hot summer's day? That's right, I brought a popsicle. You see, there's 2 sticks so you can split it with a friend. I was gonna do that, but apparently it wasn't a good day. Oh, but I also have this towel for unrelated beach reasons, but I think you may have a use for it now. That may not have worked out correctly, but I blame the season. As soon as it becomes summer, I want it to be winter again, but once we get back to winter, I'm begging for summer. And fall and spring are just there to make those transitions take longer. Nothing puts a spring in your step like falling for summer and then wanting winter. This has been Billy Nitch's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hello there. I have an interesting topic today. That topic being speed. Well, not the entirety of speed, because speed is a pretty big topic. Let's just zoom in on one narrow aspect of speed. If you're watching this, you're most likely watching it on YouTube, unless you're one of the few people to catch the original broadcast. How many people watch this show when it comes out? Oh, thought so. But what about on YouTube? Still 0. Well, to the possible future people watching this, you probably already know about YouTube's speed. And I don't mean internet speed, or loading speed, or the speed it takes something to enter someone's recommendations. I'm talking about the most interesting kind of speed. Speed you get to speed for your very own self. The video playback speed. All you have to do to access this is hover your mouse over a video, click the little gear at the bottom right, and then a little pop-up will appear, and then you click on playback speed. Had you already known about this, you might use this feature to slow down videos. And while sure, slowing down a video can be useful if you want to go frame by frame, but that's what another feature is for. If you pause a video and press the little, well, I'm not really sure what they're called, the little icons that are above the period and comma, then you can go frame by frame through a video easy peasy mac and squeezy. So slowing down a video isn't too useful. What's really useful is speeding it up. I usually watch videos in 1.25x speed. Why do I watch videos in 1.25x speed, you may ask? Well, it's because it saves a lot of time. Like, a lot of time. 25% is a big, thick percent. And being able to get through a video 25% faster means that there's time to watch other videos before you have to do things. And no one wants to do things, so you better watch those videos as fast as possible. Why only 25% extra speed, you may ask? Why not 50 or 75? Why not double speed? Well, that's because I think 1.25 shaves off from time while not speeding things up so fast
that it's difficult to understand what people are saying.
But it all depends on your confidence level, really. Determine the content of the video you're about to watch before deciding your speed. For example, if I've never seen a video, or I'm not particularly familiar with what it's about, then I'll probably watch it at 1.25% speed. If it's a video on subject matter that I'm particularly fond of or familiar with, then I'll probably watch it at 50 or maybe even 75% speed if it's a video I've seen before. I'm so fond of this YouTube fun tip thing that I've been doing it the entire duration of what you've been watching, without your consent. Sorry about that. As I implied earlier, the more times you've heard a specific video, or line, or sentence, the more easier it is to decipher it while sped up.
This has been Billy Netjo's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.
Sometimes there are things that you just constantly think about but never do anything about. Like, for example, I'm reasonably sure I talked about one specific topic before, but I don't remember it, so it might not have even happened. Like, I have that specific topic in my brain, and I'm saying, this time, that's going to be the main topic. I'm going to talk about that thing, and it's over. But no, I end up talking about something else. In fact, I might have talked about this very talking about topics topic before, but I don't remember it, so I'm just going to get it out here right now so that next time when I try to think about thinking about it, it'll already be thought. Great, now that that's out, let's talk about something that I've been thinking about that's kind of similar to the thing I was thinking about before, but is different. Hypothetically, let's say that you are a person in the beauty industry, and you're training to become a professional beauter, or whatever that term is. And coming up, and I'm not sure if this is an actual thing that happens, but again, this is just a hypothetical, you have a test coming up on makeup. However, you miss the test on makeup. So now, you have to take a makeup test. But, and again, in this hypothetical scenario, it turns out everyone missed the makeup test. And that's because there never was a makeup test in the first place. But of course, there needs to be. So now, someone is needed to make up the makeup test. And if you really want to push this to its limits, the person who's making up the makeup test, that person's name is May Cup. If you are going to use that joke for some sort of stand-up act, then it would be kind of difficult to make up your mind on whether or not May Cup is pushing it a little too far. Were you paying attention to the amount of different ways I use the word makeup in that paragraph? And back to the very beginning where I said beauter, would that be the correct term? Another one would be beautist, though neither of those may be completely correct. In fact, I'm willing the most common term is probably beauty professional, or something lame like that. But that's just the way the English language works. It's stupidly flexible. I can say basically whatever garbage I want, and as long as I provide a definition, you'll understand it. Unless you speak another language, in which case you might not understand it. And here's another thing that's been on my mind that involves other languages. If you take a song that was originally written in English and you translate it into like Spanish or something, would the rhymes still work? Because obviously there's different syllables, so I can imagine that the song wouldn't be as flowy in a different language. I can imagine this would be even more of a problem, if it even is a problem in the first place, with dead languages that no one speaks anymore. Who knows, maybe all those cave paintings on the wall are actually sick rap lyrics that no one understands anymore. But after all, that's just something I like to think about thinking about. This has been Billy Netjo's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Remember last time when I talked about strange repeating word sentences? You know, make up the makeup test or something like that? Well, I just had to pause today's topic. I just thought of a better one. And I don't mean I thought of a better topic, I mean I thought of a better sentence with repeating stuff. Here's an explanation, and you might have trouble following this if you can't remember what just happened a few minutes ago, as this will require you to remember even more minutes ago. So a while ago, I talked about Large Hadron Collider. You know, the thing that makes the particles go boom. And I was thinking strange things as usual, and I thought, if they have all this particle stuff, and they're really interested in black holes, what are you going to do when you get one? Nothing? I mean, it's a black hole, it doesn't do much. And another thing that I knew beforehand was that the center of a black hole is called a singularity. And here's where the sentence comes in. So there's this particle physicist, and his name is Smith. And Smith is thinking, we got all this black hole stuff, but nothing to do with it, because black hole is just like a hole. And so he decides to do something cool with the black hole. He puts on all of his black hole protective gear, which I'm sure they have readily available, and then walks up to it and takes a piece from the center. He takes the singularity right from the black hole and brings it right on over to their scientific research place. And he thinks to himself, black holes are so boring, I'm going to turn this into something cool. And swords are pretty darn cool. So he heats up the singularity and starts hitting it with a hammer to fashion it into a sword shape. And once he finally does create the singularity sword, which, keep in mind, is a pretty cool thing to call a sword, he has now done it, and thus is now a smith, fulfilling his name purpose. But he's not just any old swordsmith, and here's where that sentence I alluded to is coming in. He is the singularity sword, swordsmith, smith. And of course, without the proper pauses for punctuation, he is the singularity sword, smith, smith. That's all I wanted to share for that. I just thought it was pretty amusing. Anyway, today is the second day of June. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything. But yesterday was the first day of June, which does mean something. That's because the first day of June means the first day of Pride Month, which I didn't record a rant on because I forgot that June was Pride Month. I thought it was one of the other months that started with J. I knew it was one of them, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. I mean, it was a 1 in 3 guess. January, July, June. It just so happened that it was the last one. And that's usually the way I list out the 3 months that start with J. So of course the last one was going to be my last pick. It's not my fault. However, going through process of elimination, it was a pretty easy guess. As January, it would have already happened, and I would have been aware of it, so of course, it can't be January. And July wouldn't be a very good pick for the special month planners, because July isn't a school month. And this seems like the kind of thing to be brought up in schools. If you want to have an awareness month, it's a pretty good idea to make it during a school month, because people at school talk about all sorts of things, thousands of topics thrown around like every hour throughout the however many kids are in the school. So that means that there's a decent chance they'll start talking about whatever awareness month it is, especially since that month is the month that they're in school, and they may be desperate for topics to talk about. And thus would take the easy opportunity and say, hey wait, it's Pride Month, let's talk about that. That kind of strategy definitely works on me, as whenever there's a special time of the year, that's usually what I'm going to make a topic about. So yeah, that proves Pride Month is June, which has already been established, and has always been the case. So I guess now it's time to actually talk about the month. Perfect time to talk about rainbows. Oh wait, I already talked about rainbows not too long ago. Also, singularities are the complete absence of light. So I spent the day I should have been talking about rainbows, talking about the opposite of rainbows. To make up for that, here's a compliment. I like the Pride Month flag. Very colorful. And as a continuation to the time I was talking about rainbows, where I couldn't remember how many purples there were in the Pride flag, confirms that yes, there is only one purple. And of course, there always has been one purple. There's not 3 purples, there's 1. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Of course, a flag is a lot different of a shape than a big arch. So maybe real rainbows just have 2 more purples for extra stability, so it doesn't fall over. That's gotta be the reason. Has this episode just been a continuation of 2 others, you may ask? Absolutely. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant. Have a nice time. Recently, YouTube has added a new feature. What is the YouTube community consensus on this change and new feature? Well, I don't know. But I personally can say that it's pretty stupid. What it is basically a new feature where above the video progress bar, if you put your mouse on top of it, it shows a little graphy thing. And the higher the peaks on the graph, the more times people have rewound to that spot. I personally think this is insulting to everyone who uses YouTube, as it really undermines the platform. When you walk into a movie theater, you aren't told when the most interesting part of the movie is going to happen. You can decide that for yourself by, watching the movie. And I don't mean that people on YouTube can't work to make a product that could be mistaken for a piece of cinema. I'm just saying that the average YouTube video and the average movie have 2 very different aesthetics. Movies usually have things like black bars on the top and bottom of the screen to adjust to fit the strangely rectangular big movie screen thing. And don't feel the need to correct me, I know why there are black bars. It's to prevent the movie being squashed and stretched while trying to fit onto a bigger screen. But it's still kind of strange that you don't notice it while watching, because you're usually, watching the movie. Which is something you wouldn't do if you just wanted to skip to the interesting parts. Watching movies is nice because the picture's a lot sharper. Oh no, this is not what I meant. This looks terrible. So, someone change it back. How does this work? Why am I rhombi? Wait, 1 rhombus, 2 rhombi, right? It would only make sense, right? 1 rhombus, 2 rhombi. 1 rhinoceros, 2 rhinoceri. However, to avoid further talking about grammar even more, I know the obvious solution. All I have to do is spin around, and in a magic cloud of dust I'll be back to normal. 3, 2, 1... Alright then, I thought I would turn better. Guess not. Well, since it seems I'm going to be spending the rest of this episode on the floor, and this is episode 180, which is a round number that will end this set of YouTube videos, assuming this is being watched on YouTube, then, I think there's only one appropriate way to end this. Of course, the only way to undo sharpness is to end the episode with the dumbest recurring joke there is. Oh, and of course also Billy Nacho's Rant. Hope you enjoyed stuff like that.